Howdy, folks. Do a little video this morning on how I sharpen my knives out in the field. I've been carving on this piece of locust here with my new Callum Luku knife. This is the Callum Fang. I'm just breaking this knife in, getting into the good steel. You know, it came with a great sharp edge, but you want to figure out what your knife blade can do. Get yourself a nice piece of hardwood and start carving on it. See how long it'll hold an edge. I've been real happy with this blade, but once it goes dull, it's a lot harder to get back super sharp. Well, not harder, it just takes longer. So I'm going to show y'all how I do my field sharpening, the system I use when I'm out working on projects along the river, up in the mountains with Bonzo, and stay tuned. All right, so this little roll here, this was just a piece of scrap leather, some split grain leather, something left over from a project, and I turned it into a little sharpening roll, field sharpening tool roll. So what I have in here, these are DMT diamond sharpeners, and this is a pocket sharpening system. And I find, well, hey, let's, real quick before I start getting into this, I'm gonna give you all a little disclaimer. This is the way I like to sharpen. There's about a million different ways people show you can sharpen your knives on YouTube alone. Just everybody has the perfect way to get things scary sharp, splitting hairs and blah blah blah, and you know, that's really cool to be able to do that, but I'm not trying to get my blade to be splitting hairs. I want it to be work sharp, if that makes any sense. I want it to be able to shave the hair off my arm, but I don't need it to split hairs, because how long does that edge really last to be able to split hairs? You take a couple swipes off of some locust there after getting it that sharp, and all that hair split and sharpness is gone. But this is just the way I like to sharpen my knives, and it works for me. I know there's other ways. I've tried a bunch of other ways. And the main thing is, when sharpening knives, it doesn't really matter how you do it, as long as you can get your blade sharp. I hope we can all agree on that. So, let's get going. We'll get started. I have this DMT pocket sharpener. Coarse, fine. This is very fine. The green is very fine, and then if you get to like a yellowish creamish color, that's very, very fine. I think this was around 30 to have these two grits on it. Weighs barely nothing. It can either fit in your pocket or your pack. Very unobtrusive. But there's one that has the very fine side and the very, very fine side. You don't necessarily need those, but I really enjoy sharpening my knives, And that just helps them to just get that little bit extra sharpness when you're out in the field. But this suits my needs fine. No pun intended. Coarse, fine, very fine. Also, so this here, a friend of mine gave this to me a while back. I would have never bought something like this, but it's called a Sharpening pocket sharpener. And it works really well on curved blades and actually my kukri, which I might do a little video on how I sharpen my kukri out in the field at some point. But we're going to just stick to regular belt knives and pocket knives for this video. So the last thing I got here, which I like to bring out with me, is I bring out these alcohol pads, individually packaged. And what I do when I want to get ready to sharpen a knife, a lot of times I got fat wood gunk and all kinds of stuff on my blade, and I don't want the fat wood gunk to get jammed up in my diamond sharpener, up in the pores, if that makes any sense. So I've already cleaned this. I usually try and clean this right when I get back from being out in the field. I'll use rubbing alcohol to clean this off. But when I'm in the field, if I'm using a knife that's getting a little gunked up, I just break open one of these pads and I prep the blade for sharpening. It does a great job of getting the fat wood gunk and stuff off your blades. Today I'm going to sharpen this guy. This is like one of the first knives I built. That's a cherry wood, and like I just took a whole lot of time sharpening or sanding this thing down by hand, and this doesn't have a bolster, but I don't really care. I've already cleaned this blade off, but if I hadn't, get yourself a prep pad out, wipe it down, make sure you don't have any gunk on it. You want your blade laying down for a scanty grind. Now just draw it back. Once you get farther back, you want to work the whole blade. So you get back here, and then now the main thing about sharpening is you want to keep your angle. You don't want to be going up and down, and you want to keep the same angle, which that'll come with muscle memory over time. It's kind of frustrating at first trying to figure out how to sharpen a knife if you haven't done it before, and you just got to practice. And the way I would do it is get yourself an old cheap crappy knife, and just start working on your angles. And each knife blade is going to have a different angle, so you can't use the same one for each knife. But I'll start off with one side. Now this blue side is for when you're super dull, when your knife blade is super dull. And this knife blade is not super dull. I like to try and keep up on them a little bit and not let it get to that point. But now with a diamond sharpener, I mean it'll sharpen it a lot faster than a regular sharpening stone. Just do yourself a couple swipes. I usually go about 4 or 5. And the pressure that I put down is about the amount of pressure I would push down on a pen to write on a pad of paper. Now that's me. If you want to press down super hard, I mean it's gonna take the steel off quicker, but I like having a little finesse. So yeah, around what it would take to write on a pad of paper with a pen. Work yourself down about 5 strokes, and then I'll check it. Do another. what you want to do is you want to create a burr. And by sharpening this way, you're going to create a burr on this top side. So this is one way to do it. Some people like to lay the blade down and just kind of do it like this. Depending on the knife that I'm sharpening, sometimes I do sharpen it like this a little bit. Go to that side and then you work your way down the other side. I like doing it this way. And also listen. Like you can hear, like, I don't know if I'm just crazy or, like, I feel like I can hear from the sound that the blade is making along the diamond sharpener as to what angle I have this blade on. You have to listen. I don't know, I can't explain it. Maybe if you've been sharpening knives for a while, you know what I'm talking about. But listen to the way the blade is working along your sharpener. So with diamond sharpeners, it doesn't take much to get your blade sharp. And the whole object of this is to have the same angle on each side as you're sharpening. And what that does is that brings it to a point, to the apex. The apex is where both sides come to that point. That's this point here. If you're very careful and you run your fingers along like this, don't cut yourself, but you can feel if you have any burrs or chips in your blade. Also, a good way to kind of figure out if you got a good apex. It's going to be hard to do it on the video, but if you kind of hold your blade towards the sun and look down at it, if there's any shiny spots along the blade, it means you don't have an apex at that point, if that makes any sense. And you got to work on that portion of the blade. Let's say there's one tiny little sparkly spot right here. That means you don't have your perfect apex at that point. You got to keep working your blade to get it right. So also, a lot of people have problems with sharpening this belly here. Right here. They'll get this super sharp, and then they get up here, and it's still dull, and they think, well, what the heck? Like, why is it sharp down here, not up here? Well, it's the angle. So I'm going to zoom out here for a minute so you can see how I react with my body and my arm when I'm sharpening at the belly. Drawing my blade along the sharpener. Now once I get to this belly here, the easiest way to start doing this and getting used to it is lift your elbow up just a tad as you're running down. So when you get to the point where the belly is, I lift my arm up, my elbow just a tad, and that helps keep the angle. See how my arm's kind of coming up a little bit? If I keep it down here like this, the blade you end up kind of rolling the edge off of the sharpener. And you're not sharpening anything. So if you don't lift your elbow, as you're coming back along here. See that? My edge is off of the sharpener. If you don't lift your elbow a little bit. And then you want to do the other side. See how my elbow's coming up? And you gotta just practice. So basically, just go nice and easy at first. Once you get better, it doesn't take long. See how I'm kind of just drawing it up, running along the belly. You got to make sure that edge is always down on the sharpener. Lifting my elbow. So that's that. And then I'll move to this very fine. So then I move down now. It's a little tougher with this tiny little pocket sharpener. That's what I got. And usually when I get down to this very fine grit, that's where I'll start to you don't need a lot of pressure. And just listen to how that blade's going along the sharpener. If I'm back here, see this blade's just a little, and you can kind of get it if you want to do it this way. With these tiny sharpeners, I more or less like to do a quick little back and forth when you get to the very fine. Just want to do it evenly on each side. Now sometimes I'll have a leather belt on and you can stroke your blades with your leather belt. Sometimes I have leather boots on and you can, on the top of your boot, if you have steel toes or composite toe boots, like sometimes I'll just sit there and stroke the top side of, where my toe box is on my boot to kind of get this blade nice and smooth. But that's the gist of it. Feel along there, feel if you have any burrs. And this is definitely sharp enough for in the field. I don't have any hair on my arms to be able to if y'all can see. I just shaved my last 2 hairs off. But anyways, I hope y'all got something out of this video. There's plenty of ways to sharpen a knife. This is the way I like to do it. I also usually am sitting right by the river and getting some water on my diamond sharpeners, but for the sake of this video, I wanted to do it away from the river where y'all could hear me a little better. I mean, some people spit down there on your diamond sharpeners just to have a little bit of lubricant. And I feel like using water, it may be all in my head, but I feel like it does get them sharp a little easier or something like that, but that's my opinion. But with these, you don't even need to get them wet. You could just do that. And the little dots here, the story behind those, it's supposedly so that they'll catch all of your little metal shavings that are coming off of your knife blade. And then when you get home, get yourself some rubbing alcohol. I'm not going to waste these little prep pads, but wipe your diamond sharpeners down and clean them up. Take care of your stuff and it'll last a long time. But diamond sharpeners, that's where it's at for out in the field. In my book, my personal opinion. And I really appreciate y'all watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, share, subscribe with your friends. I got another 35 subscribers to go, and I'll be at 500 subscribers. We'll be at 500 subscribers. Couldn't do it without you. I have a 500 subscriber giveaway going on. You go over and check out that video and get in on it. I'm doing a giveaway of a Jeff White mini thumb skinner neck knife that I built, put together. So go check that out. Appreciate y'all supporting my channel and watching my videos. And I'll catch y'all next time. Have a good one.